What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to do a full breakdown and comparison of the stats of all of the assault rifles in XDefiant currently at launch, so you guys can get a really good indication of exactly how these perform relative to each other, and which ones may be best for various situations. And before we get into that, just a few things to keep in mind here. First off, I'm not talking about attachments at all in this video. This is just meant to get a baseline comparison out so you guys can make informed decisions as to what each assault rifle does, and this could also help you decide on which attachments you want to use to make up for certain areas. And when it comes to attachment breakdowns, if there's a lot of interest, that's something I may cover down the road on a gun-to-gun basis as people start actually unlocking a bunch of attachments. Additionally, just to set expectations right up front here, they've actually done a pretty good job of balancing the assault rifles between each other, and as a result, there isn't one best assault rifle for all situations. This video may help you determine which assault rifles are best for individual situations, but there's no all-around best, at least in my opinion. And with that out of the way, let's dive right into this, and we're going to start it off with our range and time to kill comparison. And with this, again, this was with no attachments, no other modifiers, not using the cleaners faction, not playing against Phantom players either, although I will share a time to kill comparison against Phantom players, because that's important to note as well. But for our baseline time to kill values, up close, our average for assault rifles is 407 milliseconds. And generally, the assault rifles are going to take between 5 to 8 shots to kill, depending on the gun as well as the range. And out of these, the fastest time to kill in the maximum damage range is going to be the ACR 6.8, closely followed by the MDR. But honestly, they're all fairly reasonably within the same range. Even the slowest killing one, the M16, this is just 418 milliseconds, which really isn't that much slower than the average for the assault rifles. As for ranges, the best you're going to see in this area when it comes to assault rifles are the M16 and the AK-47, and that's simply because they carry that 5-shot kill potential into their second damage range as well. So you're going to see a lot of consistency out of those. The MDR is the worst when it comes to ranges. It appears they really tried to balance this as an SMG assault rifle hybrid to a degree, and you'll see that reflected with a couple of the other stats as well as we move on in the video. But at this point, you might be wondering, what about headshots? Because headshots are actually quite powerful in this game, if you can land multiple. And let's just look at the comparison, including headshots into the equation. With this, before each time to kill value, you see the number of headshots required to get that time to kill. This is the number of headshots required mixed in with body shots. So with the M16, for instance, within that maximum damage range, we can actually get a 3-shot kill with this as long as every single one of those shots hits the head. And that gives us a very fast time to kill potential in this game at 200 milliseconds. But if you don't land all 3 and you just land 1 headshot in mixed in with body shots, you can still get a 4-shot kill potential at 351 milliseconds. Also, it is worth noting I put the headshot multiplier underneath the name for each of those guns because there is actually some variance there. The M16 and the AK-47 get a little bit of extra headshot damage compared to the others. I would say the big standouts here are actually the AK-47 and the ACR 6.8 because in their maximum damage range for both of them, you only need to land 2 headshots mixed in with 2 body shots to get a 4-shot kill. Whereas with the MDR and the M4, for instance, you got to mix 3 headshots in with 2 body shots to get a 5-shot kill. So it's going to be a lot less often with those guns that you'll see a reduction to your time to kill by mixing headshots in. So this graph does go to show how powerful headshots can potentially be, but they're actually not quite as powerful as I thought. I thought in most cases you would just need to mix 1 headshot in with body shots to cut that down, and that's rarely the case, especially not in the maximum damage ranges. As for the next thing that I feel is quite important to point out here is how do these assault rifles stack up against the Phantom faction? Because Phantoms have 120 health, whereas everybody else and everything I've been looking at so far is just at 100 health. But before we do that, today's video is sponsored by Manscaped, and it's that time of the year for spring cleaning, and that also applies to your grooming. Today, we're going to be once again having a look at the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped. Now, you guys might remember me covering this from back in December, so now I've got a solid season under my belt, pun intended, and I'm still using it regularly, and it's holding up great so far. And let's start this off with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This trimmer is the centerpiece of this set, featuring Manscaped's skin-safe blade heads. Now with this, we've got the trimmer blade for your general trimming needs. This one's tough on hair, but gentle on your skin. And if you're looking for a closer, smoother finish, you can easily pop that trimmer blade off and just swap over to the foil blade. Additionally, with this trimmer, the battery life is excellent. Like I said, I've been using this since December, and I've only had to charge it twice so far. And as far as cleaning goes, it's super easy. It's waterproof, so you can just take it in the shower with you, or rinse it under the faucet for a quick clean. As for the rest of the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra, you also get the Crop Soother Aftershave Lotion and the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant. Now, it doesn't stop there. When you order the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra, you also get a free gift, which is the Shed 2.0 travel bag. This has been excellent. I actually managed to do a little bit of traveling with it so far, and it held up great. So if you guys are interested, head over to manscaped.com and get your hands on the Perfect Package 5.0 Ultra today. And when you use my code TXA20, you'll get 20% off your order as well as free international shipping at checkout. Big thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. All right, so getting back into it, here is our range and time to kill graph against Phantom users. And as we can see here, it's generally going to take you one extra shot to kill with assault rifles against Phantom players. With one very key exception here, this is the M16. In the maximum damage range, we're still getting a 5-shot kill to the body against Phantom users, which is the same as we get against non-Phantom users. And this means if you find yourself in a lobby with a bunch of Phantom users out there and you want to use an assault rifle, it's pretty clear to me that the M16 is likely going to be your best option because you're going to be killing them up close as if they were just regular players that didn't have boosted health. And that's finally going to wrap it up for all of the range and time to kill breakdowns I wanted to do. Unfortunately, at this point, it would be a little too much to include all the cleaners info as well, because if you are playing as cleaners, you will deal extra damage but have less range. That one's going to take quite a bit more time for me to test and really figure out all the intricate details of that, whereas Phantoms is pretty simple. You just boost the health value of enemy players. So now let's get into the next really important stat to look at here, and this is our recoil comparison. And in this game, the recoil is actually very straightforward and extremely consistent as well. From one recoil plot to the next, it's going to be essentially the same with very minor deviations. The general pattern is going to be exactly the same every single time, and with the way they've got everything set up, it's just easiest to show you one single recoil plot instead of multiple. And as we can see here, obviously the most accurate assault rifle in the game is the M16, and this is largely due to the fact that it's a burst gun that will recenter perfectly between every burst. Then with the MDR, this has a fairly straightforward recoil plot. It kicks basically straight up with just a very, very slight lean to the left. That horizontal drift is practically negligible though. However, it does have technically the highest magnitude of vertical recoil out of all of the assault rifles, and relative to the other assault rifles as well, there is a decent amount of side-to-side bounce as it kicks upward. When it comes to the M4A1, this one has a fairly low vertical magnitude of recoil. However, it does drift pretty far to the right as it's kicking upward. The AK-47 has a pretty high magnitude of both vertical as well as horizontal recoil, but it's like a perfectly diagonal line straight upward and to the right. And somewhat similar to the MDR, there is some side-to-side bounce as it kicks upward with the AK-47. It's not much, but it is enough that it is worth mentioning at least. Overall, I would say the AK-47 has the worst recoil out of all of these assault rifles, but it's still very manageable. And then finally, we've got the ACR 6.8, which also kicks in a nice diagonal line upward and to the right. However, in the case of this one, the bullets tend to be very close together, and there is very little side-to-side deviation on that. It's a nice, nearly perfectly straight line. At the end of the day, these recoil patterns are all very simple and easy to control, as long as you have your aiming settings nailed down. After that, let's have a look at a comparison of our handling stats, and our aim down sight times are all fairly similar. 300 milliseconds seems to be the baseline for assault rifles, but the M4A1 will be a little bit faster at 267 milliseconds, and the ACR 6.8 is going to be a bit slower at 320 milliseconds. It's a fairly similar story with our sprint out time, or how long it takes to fire your gun coming out of a sprint. All of the assault rifles hover roughly around 300 milliseconds, but the MDR is the best out of all of these, with it being sort of that assault rifle SMG hybrid at 250 milliseconds. And then again, with the ACR 6.8, this is going to be the slowest in the assault rifle category at 320 milliseconds. After that, let's have a look at our reload add time. And these values are going to differ from what you see in the detailed stats in-game, and that's because those numbers are referring to the total animation time. However, just like with Call of Duty and many other shooters on the market, you can actually cancel any unnecessary animation once the gun is technically reloaded. So once you see the magazine filled on the bottom right of your screen, at that point, any animation after that is totally unnecessary. You can cancel that animation out, and therefore anything up until that point is what's considered our reload add time. So this is the true potential reload time of these guns. And most of the assault rifles are very, very similar here at about 1.35 to 1.39 seconds, which is actually pretty quick. That's not bad at all. However, it is clear the M4A1 is the slowest in this category at 1.54 seconds. That's still not a horrible reload time by any means. It's just noticeably slower than the other assault rifles. And then finally, for the stat comparison here, I also want to have a look at our movement speeds. And again, this is an area where if you look at the detailed stats, those movement speed values don't actually mean anything. They're just totally inaccurate at this point. So I went in, did all the hand testing, and calculated our movement speed values here. And it turns out all of the assault rifles, aside from the MDR, have the exact same movement speeds. Our base movement speed, so if we're just walking without sprinting, but we are standing up, this is 4.2 meters per second for most of the assault rifles. Our sprint speed is a 1.5 times multiplier on this, so it's 6.3 meters per second. And our aim walking movement speed is a 0.7 multiplier from the base, So the typical speed you'll see with an assault rifle is 2.94 meters per second. As for the MDR, again, they do treat this kind of like an SMG assault rifle hybrid, and as a result, all of our movement speed values are a little bit faster than what you would see with the other assault rifles. And with that, that's finally going to wrap it up for today's stat comparison for all of the assault rifles in XDefiant so far. And like I told you at the beginning, I really don't think there is one single best assault rifle in the game for like all situations. And I've got to say, that matches my experience in-game as well. Like, initially, I was really leaning toward the ACR 6.8, and that might be one of the best, like, all-arounders, but it's not necessarily the best in all situations, and I performed just fine with the AK-47 or the M4A1 as well. Then, when it comes to the M16, it may kill the slowest against regular players, but it kills the fastest against Phantom users, and it's also extremely accurate and has excellent headshot potential. And I've got to say, the only assault rifle that I'm really not a big fan of in the game currently, this is the MDR. Well, it is designed to fit that SMG assault rifle hybrid role. Honestly, I feel like it's just kind of a not so great version of either of those, and if I really want to lean into more mobility, I'll go with an SMG. Whereas if I want to lean more into what an assault rifle would be good at, I'll just go with a typical assault rifle that's not the MDR. Those are just my opinions though, and I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. For those of you guys that have put some time in with all of the assault rifles, what are some of your favorite assault rifles to use so far in XDefiant? Do you think there is just one best overall, or do you think they've actually done a reasonable job at balancing these with each other? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.